People assume the worst part of being an ambulance driver is the gore. The crushed ribs, the blank eyes, the blood. They're wrong. It's the silences. The hours between calls, sitting in your idling rig in some forgotten parking lot at 3:17 a.m., surrounded by humming fluorescents and stale coffee breath, wondering what kind of pain the next voice on the radio will bring. That night was one of those nights. We were parked outside a 24-hour laundromat, me and Liz, my partner for the shift. The windows were fogged with our breath and the outside chill. Nothing had come through the radio for almost 2 hours. The quiet had weight. It pressed into your skin, made your thoughts louder. Liz was flipping through a paperback, and I was watching the sliding glass door of the laundromat open and close, even when no one was near it. Eventually, the call came in. Dispatch 19, respond to a priority 3, possible psychiatric, 824 South Grover. The voice was too calm. Dispatch never sounds rattled, trained out of them, I guess, but something about how she said possible made my stomach shift. We pulled up to a squat, sagging house on the edge of town. The porch light was out. The only illumination came from inside, a thin blue flicker, like a television left on in an empty room. Liz rang the bell. No answer. She knocked loud and clear. Still nothing. The door was ajar. Protocol says we wait for backup if there's potential danger. But this didn't feel like danger. It felt stale. Dead air, the kind that thickens in the lungs. Against better judgment, we stepped in. The place looked like someone had been living halfway between memory and delusion. The TV was playing static, loud. In the corner of the room stood a hospital bed, the kind you only see in homes when someone can't leave anymore. No one was in it. Then we heard it, a soft shuffling upstairs. Liz called out, "EMS! We're here to help." No answer. The stairs groaned under our feet. The air got colder, drier. The hallway was lined with closed doors. From behind one of them came that shuffling again, followed by something even worse, a whisper. It sounded like our radio, but we weren't using it. It was coming from behind the door. Liz looked at me. I nodded. She opened it. The room was empty, except for an old desk with a baby monitor on it. The monitor was hissing softly, whispering words that were too garbled to catch. I picked it up. The screen blinked on, black and white, and showed what looked like a basement stairwell. Liz and I looked at each other. "Did this place even have a basement?" she asked. I didn't answer. I was staring at the screen. The camera feed jolted, twitched. Something had just moved past the lens. A shoulder. An arm. Then nothing. We should have called it in right there. But we didn't. Not yet. We found the basement door in the kitchen. It looked untouched, paint cracked, handle rusted, a lock hanging loose as if it had been snapped years ago and never replaced. The kind of door you step past for years, pretending it isn't there. The kind you avoid looking at too long. I remember Liz said, "You go first." So I did. The stairs were steep and narrow. Each step screamed under my weight, but the basement itself was silent. That dead kind of silent. The kind that eats sound. My flashlight caught dust floating in still air. The place wasn't used. Not for anything ordinary. But in the far corner there was a chair. Not a normal chair. A wheelchair. Old metal and cracked leather, the kind you only see in black and white photos. Someone had tied a bundle of cords to it, wires, tubing, speaker cables, all twisted together and trailing into a power strip on the floor. The light on the strip was off, but I swear to you, the chair was humming. Low and steady, like a motor that hadn't decided whether to live or die. Then Liz whispered my name. I turned. She was at the bottom of the stairs, frozen, staring past me. "There's something on the wall," she said. I followed her gaze. Behind the chair, the concrete wall was painted white, except for one patch. There, someone had drawn a rectangle in red marker. Inside it, childlike handwriting had scribbled a single sentence over and over. "She watches when we leave." The same line. At least 50 times. And beneath it, in dry, peeling tape, was an old photograph. I swear I almost dropped the flashlight. It was a picture of a little girl in a hospital gown, sitting in the very same wheelchair, looking straight at the camera. Her eyes were unfocused. Not blind, just looking past the world entirely. Liz stepped back, mumbling something under her breath. I asked what? She said, "The girl. She's in the monitor feed." We both looked down at the baby monitor in my hand. The screen had gone static white, but the audio was still on, garbled whispering, getting louder. Like someone learning how to speak by copying us. A few seconds later, I heard it say, "Dispatch 19, respond, she's not gone." Still waiting. I dropped the monitor. It cracked open on the floor. The whispering stopped. Something shifted in the dark, and Liz grabbed my arm. "We're leaving," she said. We didn't speak on the drive back. Didn't report the house. Not that night. Not ever. The next shift Liz didn't show. She called out. Then the next one too. I texted her, nothing. Eventually, I went by her apartment. Empty. Her landlord said she'd packed up in the middle of the night. Didn't even break her lease. Just vanished. I filed a quiet inquiry. No one cared. Happens all the time in this job, they said. Burnout. Stress. But I knew the look in her eyes when we left that basement. That wasn't burnout. For a few weeks, everything went back to normal. New partner. Same calls. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the rig and the radio clicks on, I hear a faint voice, never clear, always warped, but I swear I hear her name. And sometimes, mine. We were dispatched at 2:41 a.m., single vehicle crash, no other cars involved, possibly alcohol-related. Location, County Road 17, right near the turnoff where the woods get thick and the road drops off into a ravine. We called it the Quiet Mile. 1 bar of cell reception, no streetlights, and more deer than people. I was driving. My partner, Jeremy, had just finished his third energy drink and was ranting about how his ex had tried to fake an asthma attack to get out of paying rent. It was his way of staying alert. I didn't mind. I just stared at the GPS, watching the little dot drag us closer to the place nobody ever talked about. We'd been down that road before. Once. A couple of years back, for a different crash. That time, there was no one in the car. Just blood on the headrest and a phone in the passenger seat playing a voicemail over and over again. I'm almost there. Don't worry, I'm okay. No sign of the driver. Never found. When we turned the last bend, the headlights hit it, a silver sedan half embedded in a tree, front end crumpled like foil. One tire still spinning. Steam rising. But no one inside. Jeremy muttered, "Not this shit again," and got out to check the car. I scanned the woods with the spotlight, half expecting someone to stumble out bloody and dazed. Instead, I saw her. A woman, maybe late 30s, wearing a nightgown, barefoot, standing perfectly still on the shoulder of the road, just beyond the crash. No blood, no scratches, just watching. Jeremy called out, "Ma'am? EMS, we're here to help." She didn't move. I grabbed the first aid bag and approached slowly, keeping my voice calm. "Can you tell me your name? Are you hurt?" She blinked, then said something I couldn't quite catch. I stepped closer. "Say that again?" She looked up and whispered, "You should go." I stopped. She wasn't shaking. No fear in her voice. Just dead calm. Detached, like she was repeating something she'd been told 1,000 times. Jeremy joined us, looked at me with that unspoken medic-to-medic glance. "Something's wrong. We need to check you out, okay?" he said. She didn't resist. Walked between us like she'd been doing it her whole life. We got her into the rig, and I started checking her vitals. Everything normal. Skin warm. No trauma. Then she looked right at me and said, "There's going to be a call. Don't answer it." I froze. "What call?" She didn't reply. Just stared past me, toward the front of the rig. Jeremy slid into the driver's seat. I sat down across from her, trying to decide if she was shocky or just unstable. I reached for the radio to update dispatch. As my hand touched it, it crackled to life on its own. Dispatch 11 to all units in range. Priority 1 at 703 Bell Hollow. Child, non-responsive. Any unit available? The woman's face tightened. Don't. I hesitated. Jeremy turned in his seat. We're closest. Answer it. I reached again. And she grabbed my wrist. Not hard. Just enough pressure to stop me. You go there, and you don't come back. I looked at her hand. Her nails were short. Clean. Nothing out of place. But her grip was like stone. The radio squawked again. Any available units. Repeat. Child, non-responsive. Then Jeremy did something I'll never forget. He picked up the mic. And said, Dispatch 19 responding. En route. The drive to Bell Hollow took 11 minutes. During those 11 minutes, the woman in the back never blinked. Not once. She sat there, breathing evenly, eyes locked on the metal floor like it had something to say. I tried to talk to her. Asked her name, where she was coming from, if there was anyone we could call. She just whispered the same thing, like a broken toy on loop. You won't come back. Jeremy kept glancing at me in the mirror. He'd gone quiet, which wasn't like him. At the 7-minute mark, I asked if he wanted to reroute, maybe wait for backup. He just shook his head. It's a kid, he muttered. Can't just not go. Bell Hollow was a dead-end street with 5 houses and no porch lights. As we pulled in, the headlights caught the mailbox. 703. White paint peeling off it in sheets. The house behind it looked deserted. No lights, no movement. Jeremy killed the siren but kept the engine running. I'll go check it out, he said. You stay here with her. I watched him jog up the cracked sidewalk and knock. No answer. He knocked again, then tried the door. It creaked open. He hesitated. Then went inside. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I called his name through the radio. No reply. The woman still hadn't moved. She wasn't blinking. Wasn't breathing either. At least I couldn't see it. I leaned closer, hand inching toward her neck to check for a pulse. Don't, she said. I jumped back like I'd been electrocuted. You shouldn't have come here, she said. Her voice was different. Heavier. Like it came from under the floorboards. I reached for the cab radio. Tried to call Jeremy again. Static. Then, just barely, a sound came through, like someone dragging something heavy across wood. That's when the porch light on the house flicked on. It shouldn't have. There were no lights on when we arrived. I looked back at the woman, but she was gone. Not gone like. Stepped out. Gone like she'd never been there at all. The side door to the rig was still shut. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped out into the night. The air smelled wrong. Not rot, exactly. Not smoke. Something else. Like wet cloth that's been left in a sealed room for years. I walked up to the house. The door stood open. Inside was darkness. Then Jeremy screamed. It wasn't a word. Just a noise. A sound people make when they realize too late that they shouldn't have gone in. I ran in, calling his name. The house was empty. All the rooms were stripped. No furniture. No family photos. No signs of anyone living there, let alone a sick child. Except in one room, the walls were covered in crayon drawings. All the same image. An ambulance. Parked on a dark road. And a woman standing behind it. I ran out of that house. Called dispatch, reported a missing partner, a bad address, a total mess. Cops arrived an hour later. They searched the whole street. Jeremy was never found. The crash victim? Never existed. No report of a silver sedan. No license plate match. An 824 South Grover, the call that sent us out in the first place? That address had burned down in 1992. Sometimes, when I'm out late on a call and we drive past that stretch of woods, I see a figure standing just beyond the trees. Barefoot. In a nightgown. Watching. Waiting for the next unit to respond. There's a sound you never forget as an EMT. The beeping of a monitor showing a flat line, then a sudden return to rhythm. That beep, it's hope and terror bundled together. Sometimes, though, it's wrong. That night, I was working a solo transfer, late run from County General to a rehab facility just outside the city. Patient was a John Doe, mid-40s, picked up earlier from a motel after a suspected overdose. Stable vitals, unconscious, unresponsive to verbal cues. Still, heart rate steady at 72 BPM. I'd monitored it myself. Smooth as clockwork. The nurse who helped me load him onto the stretcher didn't want to talk about him. He came in talking, then just stopped, she said. Vitals are fine, but he's not there. Something about it gives me the creeps. I brushed it off. People shut down all the time. The brain protects itself in strange ways. 10 minutes into the drive, the patient opened his eyes. I nearly drove off the road. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. You're okay. You're in an ambulance. We're transferring you to a care facility. His pupils didn't move. Just stared at the ceiling. Then, very softly, he whispered, No, you're transferring me. I paused. That's right. To rehab. No, he said again. You're transferring me. Then he smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was too slow, too deliberate, like someone rehearsing the idea of smiling without understanding it. The monitor still showed 72 BPM. Exactly 72. Not 71. Not 73. That's when I noticed something else. His chest wasn't rising. I checked again. No breath sounds. No condensation on the oxygen mask. No breathing. I grabbed the monitor leads, rechecked the connections. Everything was attached properly, reading normally, except it couldn't be. If he wasn't breathing, the heart rate should have tanked. I leaned over to check his pulse. He turned and looked straight into my face and whispered, Don't touch me. I froze. Then he added, It's not mine. What's not yours? I asked. He didn't respond. Just kept smiling. I slammed the brakes. We were on a stretch of road without lights or houses. Woods on either side. Dead zone for signal. I opened the side door of the rig for air, mine, not his, and stepped out to gather myself. When I looked back in, the stretcher was empty. But the monitor still showed 72 BPM. I climbed back in, frantic. Checked every corner. No sign of him. He hadn't passed me. The door hadn't opened again. It was like he'd never been there. Then the monitor beeped once, sharp, loud. The screen went black. For a few seconds, just silence. Then it flickered back on. 72 BPM. The name at the top of the screen had changed. It didn't say, John Doe, anymore. It said Mind. I radioed dispatch, trying to keep my voice steady. Told them I'd lost the patient, asked for backup, gave my location. But the response wasn't what I expected. Repeat that? The dispatcher asked. I said the patient is gone. Vanished from the rig. No sign of him anywhere. Pause. Then, you're not showing a transport on file for that unit. I stared at the console. The trip was logged. I had paperwork. I'd signed it. You don't have a John Doe from County General? I asked. Negative, she replied. Last transfer from county was at 21:14. You're not on the board for anything tonight. Do you need assistance? I ended the call. My mouth was dry. I opened the rear doors again, hoping I'd find something, anything, on the road behind us. But it was just asphalt and silence. Then my radio clicked again. Only this time, it didn't come from dispatch. A voice whispered, 72, 72, 72. I turned it off. The monitor in the rig was still beeping. Still 72 BPM. Still labeled with my name. I yanked the leads out of the machine. The screen flickered, then held steady. Same number. Same name. I tried the console GPS. It was looping. Spinning in place, no destination. I looked out the windshield and saw what I didn't want to see. The road ahead looked exactly the same as the road behind. No markers. No intersections. Just trees. And then something crossed in front of the ambulance. Quick. Too fast to see clearly, but tall, hunched, dragging something. I threw the rig into gear and drove. No destination. No plan. Just away. But the road didn't change. Every mile, the same woods. The same flicker of movement in the corners. My hands clenched the wheel tighter and tighter. I kept glancing at the monitor. Still 72 BPM. Still my name. I started to feel like I couldn't breathe. That's when the headlights hit something ahead. The patient. Standing in the road, arms limp, face tilted toward the stars. I braked hard, skidding to a stop a few feet in front of him. He didn't move. I stepped out, engine still running, door left open. Took a few slow steps toward him. He didn't blink. He whispered, "You were the last call." "What are you talking about?" He smiled. "You responded to me. You took my pulse. That makes it yours now." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. He raised a hand and pointed past me. I turned. The rig was gone. Just a dark road. Empty. I looked back, and he was gone too. I don't remember how I got back. Or when. I woke up in my apartment, in uniform, with dried blood on my collar. No calls from dispatch. No mention of the transfer. But the monitor in our rig? Now every time I log in, the machine autofills my name. And the heart rate is always 72. Even when there's no one in the back. I remember the address before I remember the name. 1147 Grandview Lane. That house has shown up on my run sheet 3 times in the last 2 months. Always the same call, elderly female, possible fall, difficulty breathing. We get there, and she's sitting in a chair near the window, calm, lucid, no injuries. Just waiting. The first time, I chalked it up to confusion. Happens with dementia. The second time felt off. She said the fall had already happened. Said I was too late. Then thanked me for coming anyway. That night, the base nurse told me the call was never officially logged. "Might be a glitch," she said. "You sure you didn't just drive past it on another run?" But here it was again. 1147 Grandview. We pulled up. Same single-story house, overgrown lawn, porch light flickering. I turned to my partner Devin, fresh out of field training. He gave me a shrug that said, "Let's just check it out." We knocked. No answer. Door wasn't locked. Inside smelled like wet paper and bleach. That strange smell that hospitals and nursing homes share when they're pretending not to decay. We called out, "EMS!" and walked through the dim hallway. Same layout. Same furniture. Same photo of a man and woman on their wedding day in 1964. In the living room, the chair was empty. That was new. But in the far room, we heard the soft creak of someone rocking. We found her in the back bedroom, sitting in a different chair, this time facing the wall. She didn't turn when we entered. Just said, "You came again." 4th time. I checked the chart. "Ma'am, we've been here before, but not 4 times. She turned slowly. Her eyes were pale, cloudy, but sharp. "No. Not you. Me." Devin looked at me like, "What the hell?" I stepped closer. "Are you feeling dizzy? Did you fall today?" She shook her head. Then, like she was trying to explain something impossible, she whispered, "It's always different, but I remember each one. The first time, you found me on the floor. Second, I was already dead. Third, I wasn't here at all. But I always wake up before the ambulance leaves." I swallowed. "What do you mean, wake up?" She didn't answer. Just looked at the far wall, where an oxygen tank hissed softly. Then she added, "One of you won't make it home tonight. I'm used to people saying strange things. Delirium, trauma, medication. But something about the way she said it, calm, like a memory, made me freeze. Devin tried to steer us back to protocol. Vitals? He asked. I checked her pulse. Steady. BP was low, but not dangerous. No visible injuries. We debated whether to transport, but I didn't want to stay in that house any longer than we had to. As I helped her onto the stretcher, she whispered, "You should check the mirror before you leave." "What mirror?" She just smiled. We wheeled her through the narrow hall, and just before we exited, Devin nudged me and pointed to a dusty wall mirror near the door. There were 3 reflections. Me, Devin, and her, already strapped down in the gurney. But in the mirror she was standing, smiling. The drive to St. Mary's took 13 minutes. We didn't speak for the first 5. Devin finally broke the silence. "That mirror thing, you saw it too, right?" I nodded. She wasn't in the chair. Exactly. She was standing. But how? I don't know, I said. Just focus on the road. I turned around to check on her. She was lying on the stretcher, eyes closed now. Breathing steady. Peaceful even. Like none of it had happened. I tried not to stare too long at her face. Something about it felt different. Not aged exactly. More like smoothed. Like a photograph left in the sun too long. I busied myself with the vitals monitor. Everything read normal. Then I looked at the ECG strip. There was no electrical activity. Flatline. But the heart monitor was still beeping, strong and regular. I double-checked the leads. Reconnected them. Same reading. I looked back at the patient, still breathing. Still calm. Then she opened her eyes and said, "We're almost there." I looked out the window. We were passing the cemetery on Wilbur Road. We weren't almost there, we were way past our turn. "Devin, where are you going?" He blinked. "What?" "You missed the exit." "No," he said. "I'm following the GPS." I checked the screen. There was no route. Just a looping blue line, drawing circles. I reached over and grabbed the wheel, forced us off onto a side street. The rig jolted, tires screeching. Devin yelled, but I didn't care. I needed to stop the vehicle. We came to a halt in a small industrial lot. Empty. Just cracked pavement and chain-link fences. The patient sat up. No straps. No struggle. Just sat up. Her voice was calm. "You should have kept driving." I stood, blocking the back door. "Who are you?" She smiled. "You already know." Then she pointed to Devin. "He's the one who won't make it." I turned. Devin had slumped in the front seat, unconscious, his head against the wheel. I rushed forward, checked for a pulse. Nothing. No breath, no heartbeat. I yanked the AED from the wall, started compressions, yelling for him to wake up. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The rig lights flickered. I looked back. She was gone. Door still closed. Nowhere to run. Devin gasped. He shot upright, gasping like he'd surfaced from a deep dive. I grabbed his shoulder. "Hey. Look at me, are you okay?" He nodded weakly, disoriented. "What happened?" "I don't know." I lied. We made it to St. Mary's 30 minutes late. The patient wasn't in the system. No intake. No ID. No record of the call. Later that night, Devin sent me a photo. It was from the mirror in his bathroom. There were 3 reflections. Him. Me. And the woman, standing just behind us, smiling. It was a mass casualty drill, that's what they told us. A joint training with fire, police, and EMS. Simulated explosion, triage practice, all that. I'd done a few before. They always feel a little off, though. Like pretending to drown in front of lifeguards, fake screaming, fake blood, but somewhere under it, a real sense that you're rehearsing your own death. The location was an old hotel on the outskirts, condemned, stripped for asbestos, windows boarded up. We arrived just before dusk. 20 volunteers scattered across the lobby and hallways, each given tags around their wrists: green, yellow, red, black. Red meant critical. Black meant dead. We were told the building was safe. No hazards, the coordinator said. Just noise, smoke, and lighting effects. I was paired with Rami, one of our quieter medics. We were assigned floor 3. The elevators were off, so we took the stairs. The place smelled like mold and dry wallpaper. The kind of smell you feel in your teeth. We started clearing rooms, finding patients with their tags, marking response times, recording vitals if needed. It was going fine. Routine. Until room 312. The door was ajar. I pushed it open and stepped into darkness. EMS. I called. We're here to check your status. No response. Just breathing. I flashed my light. There, slumped against the far wall, was a woman. Pale. Wearing civilian clothes, not the volunteer jumpsuits. No moulage makeup. No staged blood. But she had a red tag. Rami stepped in behind me. You're not supposed to be in here, he said. She looked up. Her eyes were wrong. Too wide, too still. Then she said something I'll never forget. They never leave. Rami turned to me, confused. Who? But she didn't answer. She just lifted her hand and placed it over her own tag. I stepped closer, hesitated, then read the tag out loud. It didn't say critical. It said returned. Rami looked at me. What the hell does that mean? I stepped back. We need to get a supervisor. This isn't one of ours. The woman didn't move. Didn't blink. She just kept her hand resting lightly on that strange red tag. Returned. We backed out into the hall. I radioed the floor commander, asked if there were any late additions to the drill. His reply came back quick. No one's in that room. Room 312 was cleared in the initial sweep. What are you seeing? Rami leaned in. There's a woman here. Civvies. No med ID. Red tag says. Returned. I said. Silence on the line. Then the commander asked slowly. Are you sure you're in 312? I looked back at the door. There was no number on it anymore. Just peeling paint. But we had both just seen it. I stepped back inside to double-check. She was gone. The room was empty. Just a dusty floor, broken bed frame, and the outline of where a body might have sat, etched in grime. No tag. No woman. Nothing. Rami swore. I didn't answer. My hand was still on my radio, but I hadn't released the talk button. That's when I heard it, coming through the static. A voice, not mine, whispering, "Do not re-enter." I dropped the mic. We bolted down the stairs, skipped every step we could, almost tripped in the lobby. The supervisor was waiting for us, confused and annoyed. What's going on? We told him everything. The room. The woman. The tag. He laughed it off at first. We don't even use that term. Returned? You sure it wasn't just faded? He took us up himself. Brought security. Room 312 had a door again. Clearly marked. But inside, untouched. Sheets still folded, plastic wrap over the mattress, no signs of life. He chalked it up to stress. Happens more than you think. You guys okay to finish the floor? We said yes. But when we got back to the rig at the end of the night, there was a new call listed on our log. Not from dispatch. Just a timestamp. A GPS location. And a patient name. Rami. There's a rule on night shifts: never transport without logging the pickup. Even if you're just moving a patient from one wing to another, you log it. That's how we keep track of lives, and more importantly, deaths. But one night we broke that rule. It was just past 3 a.m., one of those dead stretches when even the air feels still. I was driving Unit 7 with Chloe, a third-year paramedic and the closest thing I had to a friend on the job. We were parked outside a diner when the call came, not through dispatch, but directly to Chloe's personal radio. Old, analog. Barely used. She frowned. That's not, hold on. The voice was faint, static heavy. Female. Requesting transfer. Memorial to Ridgeview. Room 5. Chloe looked at me. That's weird. Memorial's closed overnight. No transfer scheduled. We tried calling it in. No one at dispatch had logged anything. But the voice repeated again, same words, slightly slower. Requesting transfer. Memorial. Ridgeview. Room 5. Against our better judgment, we drove to Memorial. The building was locked, of course, but the ambulance bay doors were open. Lights inside flickered like someone had just walked through. We entered through the bay. The ER wing was dark, but room 5's door was open, light buzzing overhead. Inside was a gurney. Empty but prepped. 4-pole attached, oxygen tank full, sheets turned down like it was expecting someone. Then we saw it, a clipboard on the floor with a single name. Patient, Adam Knox. Status, unrecorded. There was no one in the room. Chloe whispered, "Do we leave it?" I shook my head. I don't know why. We rolled the gurney into the rig and started toward Ridgeview. That's when the monitor turned on by itself. Vitals stable. 78 BPM. We were driving an empty gurney. The heart monitor beeped steadily. 78 BPM. I stared at the screen. Green lines, perfect rhythm. Oxygen sat at 98%. Blood pressure, 118/72. All for a patient who wasn't there. Chloe sat in the back, watching the vitals with a pale face. Maybe the unit's miswired, she whispered. But she didn't believe it. Neither did I. I pulled over just off Highway 4, where the trees lean in too close to the road and the moonlight dies before it hits the pavement. I opened the rig, climbed into the back. Still empty. But something had changed. The gurney straps were fastened now, tied as if restraining someone. We hadn't done that. I looked at Chloe. "I didn't touch them," she said. The monitor beeped again. Then, suddenly, it flatlined. We both jumped. The alarm blared. The screen blinked twice, then shut off. The silence afterward was worse than the noise. I reached for my radio. Nothing but static. Tried the GPS, screen frozen. Then Chloe whispered, "What's that?" I turned. A black object had been placed on the floor near the gurney. It was a wallet. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside was a driver's license. Adam Knox. Born 1983. Expired license. Issued in a county 2 hours from here. And tucked behind it, a hospital visitor badge. Memorial General. Room 5. Issued 5 years ago. That's when the knock came. Soft. From the outside of the rig. We froze. It came again. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. I opened the back doors. No one was there. But the pavement beneath the rig was wet. Like someone had just been standing there, barefoot, bleeding. We drove straight to Ridgeview. Didn't speak the whole way. When we arrived, I handed the wallet to the intake nurse. Told her what we'd been told. She typed the name. Waited. Then looked up. Adam Knox died 5 years ago. Suicide. Hung himself in room 5 of Memorial General. He was never a patient. Just a visitor. His brother died in that room the night before. She slid the wallet back. "We don't take returns," she said quietly. When we got back to the rig, the gurney was bare again. Straps unfastened. Monitor off. Only thing left was a hospital wristband on the floor. It said my name. And a timestamp. 37 minutes from now.